Hello family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and welcome to my next Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid Villains Breakdown. Before I jump into the actual TV show and cover like individual seasons and whatnot of monsters that you're going to find within Heroes of the Grid, I decided to go ahead and look for something non-TV related. Something that can kind of give you guys an idea of other types of villains that you may encounter and come across when you buy various sets. Specifically the ones that have shown up within the Boom comic book series. So this is going to cover two different storylines within the Boom comic book series, the Shattered Grid and the Necessary Evil storylines. You're going to find Ranger Slayer, Black Dragon, and Lord Drakkon within the Shattered Grid big box set. You'll also find the Hyperforce Rangers, along with a lot of other random Rangers in there as well that are definitely worth checking out. And then you have Dayne over here and Kiya, both from Necessary Evil. Dayne is like the intergalactic bounty hunter. It's the same species as Anubis Kruger. And then Kiya is evil blue Omega Ranger. Both of those are within the Rangers United big box set. You'll be able to find them along with the Omega Rangers, who I just recently covered not too long ago on one of the breakdowns. So this is going to be a very interesting spread here throughout the course of basically a lot of comic book history. And finally, being that this is my second villains breakdown of this, just keep in mind that this format is probably going to tweak a little bit as I go along. Right now, I just have the Psycho Rangers up for my villains breakdown, and I like me being able to like give a rating of what I think the threat level of whatever their card is. I think that's a really interesting thing to do and kind of gives you a little bit of thought on, is it a card that needs to be dealt with immediately, or can you hold on to it or tank the hit in order to be able to move on to something else a little bit more, dire. But again, every one of those threat levels that I mentioned within this breakdown is just going to be based on if the card was there with maybe a few others of this particular character. There's so many different situations that could come up with foot soldiers and other cards. If you're mixing monsters, things along that ways that could possibly make a card that has a threat level of 2 go up to 4, or a threat level of 5 drop down to 3. There's a lot of variance to it, and it's all basically my opinion as well. All of that and more is exactly what I'm hoping for when it comes to these breakdowns. Community interaction and all of us learning together what these villains do and why we should be afraid of them. Now then, let's go ahead and jump on into the Shattered Grid as well and start learning about Ranger Slayer, Black Dragon, and Lord Drakkon. I'm not going to be covering the foot soldiers in this. I'm going to have a separate villain breakdown that's specifically for such foot soldiers later. Mainly because there's a ton of different foot soldiers, and I kind of just want to cover them all at once. So here we go into the Shattered Grid. The Ranger Slayer. Kimberly Ann Hart was brainwashed by Lord Drakkon as he started taking over other realities. He gave her a power boost in the form of the Dark Bow to become one of the strongest Rangers in any timeline. She joined Drakkon in terrorizing the Morphing Grid using her Bow of Darkness and Frankenstein amalgamation of a Zord called the Grave Zord to cause panic and chaos throughout the worlds. No Ranger is safe when the Ranger Slayer has them in her sights. The Ranger Slayer is a monster within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning you only need to defeat 4 of her 8 cards in order to defeat her. Within her deck, 7 of her cards have a 4 health value and 1 of them has a 6 health value. Her keyword breakdowns are 1 blank card with no keywords on it, 5 fast cards, 2 guard, no passives, and no combo keyword cards. First card is the Slaying Shot. 4 health fast keyword card, roll 4 dice and deal that much damage to the Ranger with the fewest cards in their deck. There are 3 of these located within the Ranger Slayer's deck, and I rate this as a level 2 threat. Mainly because, 1, it's a fast card, so regardless of anything, you're going to throw it out, it's going to trigger first. Even if you have all 3 of them out at once, it doesn't really build up the threat too much. In fact, this is probably one of the best cards to get from the Ranger Slayer, because let's face it, it's relying on you to roll dice in order to deal damage. Now, yes, you are rolling 4 dice. 4 dice, 4 damage, ideally would be what happens on that. But what if you whiff it all? This could actually do 0 damage or even like only 1 or 2 damage to a single Ranger, which isn't that hard to deal with. if this does anything higher than 5, then you're that's reverse luck right there, isn't it? Something like this I always seem to roll the best on whenever I am rolling against me, as opposed to me needing to deal damage out when I just whiff everything, which I don't know. I don't know if that's just rolling luck, RNG gods against us or whatever, but ideally speaking, Slaying Shot is not really the worst card to deal with, and because there are 3 of them in the deck, it's a very high chance for it to show up multiple times within your battle. You can plan for it pretty quickly, and again, mainly because it's fast, it's going to go off regardless of anything, so you're already going to have to deal with it before you even get a turn to do something. Next is Suppressing Shot, a 4 health guard keyword card, 3 damage to each ranger, skip the next ranger turn in battle. There are 2 of these within her deck, and I rate this as a level 5 card. Get rid of this as soon as you can. 4 health is not that difficult to deal with, especially with a lot of rangers nowadays that are just piling on damage and piling on stuff, so that shouldn't be too hard to get rid of. It's a guard keyword, so you're going to be able to hit it regardless of anything because guards don't guard other guards, so it's a sitting duck. And the reason I rank it so high is because of that final part, skip the next ranger turn in battle. Luckily, this isn't fast. If this was fast, that'd be even worse. And because of other fast cards within her deck, this is going to move down the line pretty quickly. She has a lot of fast cards in this. So regardless of wherever this comes out, it's going to be pushed down to the right unless it's the very last card you happen to draw. But even if it is, fast cards would always seem to go in front of it regardless. I mean, there's a very, very small chance that this would be the first card on her list. And if it's not, then you need to get rid of it, because if the Rangers skip their turn, that could be very detrimental for the entire team, because any turn missed by the Rangers is a lot of damage coming at them. Next is the Thunder Kick, a 4 health fast keyword card. The Ranger with the most cards in their hand must discard cards from their hand until they have discarded at least 4 shields or until they have no cards remaining in their hand. This is a threat level of a 3, mainly because it's forcing you to get rid of cards from your hand. Unfortunately, like a lot of her other things, because it's fast, there's only 2 of these within her deck. So you're probably going to find more fast cards, to come out sooner than this one, and hopefully push it down the line to give you a chance to get rid of it. It's a matter of getting rid of cards in your hand. If you're playing the normal rules where it's like 4 players, everybody has their own deck of cards and things along that ways, it's not so terrible. But from a solo player perspective, which is what I usually do, you only have that one hand of cards and can have anywhere from 2 to 4 of a single ranger's card. 4 shields is a lot. 4 shields could be every single card from that particular ranger tossed out of their hand, and that's less options that I would have in order to get in there in order to fight. Now, I don't know. There's portions of this where I can see it not being so bad, but at the same time, anything that causes you to forcefully discard cards from your hand is a huge, huge problem within the game. So, I don't know. Would it be better as a 4? No, I'm going to leave it as a 3. Threat level 3, definitely. And finally, her big card, the Bow of Darkness, her source of power that Tommy gave her. Well, Lord Drakkon gave her, which is actually funny because if you look at the card, it's the Sword of Darkness, but like double-sided. So it's 2 swords of darkness put together with a bow, the bowstring in the middle. I think I mentioned that when I actually covered Kimberly Ann Hart, her good version of this character within Heroes of the Grid. This is, of course, the evil version. Anyway, Bow of Darkness, a 6 health card, has no keywords on it, which is great. Deals 6 damage to the lead ranger. This is a threat level of 3, only because that's a lot of damage. 6 damage is quite a lot that you have to deal with. I mean, minimum, you're tossing 2 cards into your discard pile because of the 3 shield cards and everything, unless you have lots of reduction and whatnot. Otherwise it's going to the lead ranger, so you know exactly who it's going to hit. And if you haven't fully fortified that lead ranger throughout the course of your game, then this could easily take them out. I mean, maybe 3 is a little bit too high as well. Well, you know what? The health at 6 is kind of an annoying thing as well. That means that this card's going to hang out on the field for a while. There are other cards within her deck that I definitely say you should focus more on as opposed to Bow of Darkness. But if it happens to be in a situation where you can hit it without any keywords on it, it can be guarded and things along that ways. And it can also be pushed all the way to the end, because if this comes out first, every other fast card is just going to move it down the line. So Threat level of 3. If you can hit it, try to get rid of it to avoid that 6 damage. If not, then, well, I hope your lead ranger is ready for a beating, because she's aiming for the kill shot is exactly what's happening here. Black Dragon. A Zord-like machine made from the parts of the Dragon Zord, originally controlled by Lord Drakkon. Whether in gigantic form or shrunk down to the size of the Rangers, the Black Dragon's power is unmatched, and its ability to drain energy is enough to put full Ranger teams down for the count. Its main goal was to travel across worlds, killing Tommy Oliver, but was defeated by a Tommy, leading the Black Dragon to self-destruct. But that didn't mean the end of this menacing mecha, as soon it would rise again. The Black Dragon is a monster class card within Heroes of the Grid, meaning that you need to defeat 4 of its 8 cards in order to successfully defeat it. Within that stack of cards, you'll find 5 cards that have 4 health apiece, and 3 of them that have 5 health apiece. As far as keywords go, 3 of its cards are blank, 2 have the fast keyword, 2 have the guard keyword, and 1 is a passive. First card from the Black Dragon, and as awesome as that image is, the card itself is kind of underwhelming. Black Claw, 4 health, no keywords, simply deal 5 damage. Now, 5 damage is nothing to scoff at, but based on how a lot of Rangers work nowadays with damage reduction and being able to put cards back and move things around and whatnot, keep in mind, when these characters, Ranger Slayer, Black Dragon, and Lord Drakkon, first came into the Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid world, this was the first expansion that the game ever got. So only prior to this, we just had the original core team of 5, possibly White Ranger and Green Ranger, depending on if you got those special packs or not. All of that other stuff, SPD, Dino Thunder, the Beast Morphers, all of that stuff did not exist yet. And since all of that has come out, something like this card where it says deal 5 damage is really a threat level of 2. Only because it's 5 damage. 5 damage could wipe out quite a lot of cards within your deck. I mean, you only have 20 shields running around on it. That's a quarter of it all gone. But at the same time, there are plenty of cards out there to reduce that damage. There's plenty of cards in order to be able to re-heal those cards again. And because this does not have any keywords attached to it, if it happens to be out in the middle of nowhere in the field, like all the way to the right, to the left, or whatever, and it's a sitting duck, 4 health is nothing that should be too difficult for most Rangers to gang up on and destroy. That image, though, of it sucker pushing the Dragon Zord, like just knocking its block off, that is awesome. Next, we have the Dragon Crusher, a 4 health guard keyword card. Deal 3 damage. The Ranger who suffers this damage must discard from their hand the card with the most shields. I'm also going to put this at a threat level of 2, mainly because, again, it has the guard keyword. So as soon as it hits the field, you're going to be able to get right on top of it and get rid of it as fast as possible. You can also kind of work your way through it where it's like if you have Rangers that don't have a lot of high shield cards in their hand. Maybe you have somebody that's playing that only has like 3 cards in their hand and they're all 1 shield, or even 2 shields isn't so bad. You let that Ranger take the damage. This way, whenever they get rid of a card, it's nothing that's going to like really hinder them too much. Or they just may not need all the cards in their hand, so choose that Ranger, and once they take the 3 damage, which is really minimal damage, like most Rangers can handle that no problem. Guard reductions, or even just within the decks themselves, if they stack it correctly, that you'll be able to take that damage and then can just toss the card no problem. Next is the Nega Beam. There are 2 of these within his deck. I realize I really should be talking about that more. There are 3 Black Claws and 2 of the Dragon Crushers within the deck. Kind of another reason why I rank them where I rank them, because if you have a bunch of Black Claws on the field, it's really nothing that you have to worry too much about. Just go down the line and knock them down one by one. But Nega Beam here is a 5 health fast keyword card, so that's going to go right to the front and trigger, and each Ranger must shuffle 1 random card from their hand back into their deck, then discard the top 2 cards of their deck. That's an awful effect. I'm going to put this as a threat level of 4, but the problem is because it's fast and there's only these 2 fast cards within his deck, if this hits the field, it's going to trigger regardless of anything, unless you have something to stop fast from happening. Now, you may think putting 1 card back into their deck and then discarding the 2 isn't really that bad. You're at least putting something in, and then even though 2's coming out, it evens out in a sense. I never liked putting stuff into the deck or discarding from the main deck, because now you're just kind of milling yourself out. You're going to see that happen. It's going to go boom, boom, and doesn't matter what the damage is. There's no reduction. There's no getting around it. You're losing those cards regardless. And because of the word random within this, you don't have any control or say over what happens with it. You may have a great hand of like 4 cards, shuffle that up, and you're going to pull one random one, and it's going to be that one that's like, oh no, I needed this card to do something. Going to go into your main deck, shuffle that up, you're going to take the top 2, and they are just going to be, they're of course going to be the cards that you need in order to really advance past the Black Dragon. So this is an awful card to have to deal with, and it's even worse because it's fast, and it's probably going to, 9 times out of 10, going to trigger before you have any say to it at all. But I'm still putting it at a level 4 threat. And lastly, we have his Chaos Wave. There's only one of these in the deck, but that's all you need to watch out for. 5 health, passive keyword. While this card is in play, each time a ranger plays a card, drain 1 energy after that card resolves. Energy drain is the worst. This is a level 5 threat. You need to get rid of this thing as soon as possible, because again, anytime you play a card, it doesn't matter what it is, 0, 1, 3 energy cost, it doesn't matter. You are losing an energy along the way. And if you don't have any energy to lose within the, the shared pool or on your cards, then Rangers have to start discarding cards from their hands. This is awful. I'm glad that there's only one in the deck. A 5 health card and is fairly okay to deal with. You just got to hope that it's not surrounded by guard cards and things along that ways, because if it is, you got to get around them first before you start picking away at this. And again, every time you play something, it's another energy, it's another energy, it's another energy. Unless you're playing stuff to gain a lot of energy to, as like the buffer to deal with the Chaos Wave, this needs to go away fast. This is the worst card in his deck by far. Again, I'm glad that there's only one of these and that the other cards are pretty decent to deal with. This would be your focus if it ever hit the field. Lord Drakkon, an alternate evil version of Tommy Oliver. This Tommy never joined the Ranger team after becoming the Green Ranger. Instead, he continued to fight against them until one day when Tommy took the White Ranger's powers and merged them with the Green Ranger, becoming Lord Drakkon. From there, Drakkon waged war against Ranger teams not only in his reality, but across all of the morphing grid. Using powers that he stole from other Rangers to form his armies, Lord Drakkon became one of the most terrifying Rangers in all existence. Lord Drakkon is a boss-level character within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning that you need to defeat 6 of his 8 cards in order to fully defeat him. Within his deck, 6 of his cards have 5 health, 1 has 6 health, and there is a 7 health card within the deck. Keywords break down to 1 card being blank with no keywords, 3 of them having the fast keyword, 1 guard, 1 passive, and there are 2 cards within his deck that have a combo keyword of fast and guard. Combo keyword cards are no joke, but we'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to start with the Cyclone Strike, a 5 health fast keyword card. 3 of these appear within his deck, so there's a very good chance that you're going to pull 1, 2, or possibly even all 3 of them. Deal 4 damage, deal 3 damage, deal 2 damage. This is not so horrible of a card as it sounds. I would only give this a threat level of 3. Being that it is a fast card, it's going to trigger probably before you have a chance to do anything anyway. And the damage values of this are not that terrible. Yes, there's a lot of cards out there that could modify these damage values, boosting them up and whatnot, in which case the higher these damage values are, the higher of a threat level it is. But just as is, the 4 damage is not that great because it's almost guaranteed that you're going to be getting rid of 1 card at least from when you flip it over. 3 damage and 2 damage, again, as I mentioned before with this, with a lot of ways that the Rangers are made nowadays and a lot of their special abilities and just the way that their cards interact with each other, there's a lot of damage reduction that you can do to knock down 3 and 2 damage to do absolutely nothing, leaving you just having to figure out, what to do about the 4 damage. Each one of these attacks is a separate attack. So if you have something that reduces damage by 2, you can only do that to one of these 3 attacks. But because each one is an individual attack, a different ranger can take it. So one could take 4, one could take 3, one could take 2. A lot of different strategies in order to, you know, figure out how to like get around Cyclone Strike, get around the Cyclone, spin that Cyclone. Anyway, Havoc Blow, 5 health, fast and guard keyword. So this is your double keyword card. There are 2 of these within his deck. Deal 3 damage, drain 2 energy. This is a threat level of 4, and you gotta hope that you pull some other fast cards in order to move this down the line so you can get rid of it quickly. Why? Because of the drain 2 energy ability. Anything that drains your energy is something you want to try to get off of that field as fast as possible. Energy is needed for your more powerful attacks. Energy is needed in order to keep your characters in the game longer. And of course, cards like this are made in order to suck that all away. 5 health is a lot to deal with. He is a boss. You are going to have to kind of put a little bit extra oomph in order to get rid of these cards, but this is definitely one that I would focus on. There are other cards in his deck that are worse than this, but if there's nothing else, if you have a lot of Cyclone Strikes or some other things on there, definitely try to get rid of this as fast as possible so you do not drain that energy. Next is Thunder Slash, which is interesting because Ranger Slayer had Thunder Kick, a lot of thunder abilities in here. 5 health, no keywords, not a bad thing. At least it's not bringing anything to the table that way, but that means guards can also prevent you from attacking it or whatnot. Deal 3 damage to each Ranger twice. That's rough. That is definitely a threat level of 4 right there. There are only 1 of these in his deck, which is good, but 3 damage to each Ranger twice. You're not divvying that out. You're not moving that around to all the Rangers. Everybody takes 6 damage, but it happens in 2 different sets. So it's not like you can flip a card and just have it reduced from the 6. It's you got to go through the 3 damage and then you got to go through the 3 damage again. There's a good chance that a lot of cards could go back to the bottom of your deck by doing this. So, you know, there's a way that you may be able to work this out where it's not going to be as damaging as possible. But the fact that this hits every Ranger as well is awful. Now, in a solo mode right there, because you're playing as 3 Rangers and then that's 3 damage apiece. Oh man, that could send a Ranger right into knocked out territory. And then you'll have to like hopefully survive the battle with the rest of them. And then if you get rid of this fast enough, at least you won't have to deal with it a second time, but you don't want this coming back in future fights with him. I mean, speaking of things you don't want to come back in future fights, these last 3 cards, that one, this one, and the next one, they only appear once in his deck, but these are the cards you want to get rid of as fast as possible. This is a threat level 4 as well, Dominate. 6 health guard keyword card, which is great, so this way you can target it. The lead Ranger must discard 2 random cards from their hand, deal damage to each Ranger equal to the number of shields on the discarded card. Now, there is a way that you can kind of finagle this in order to be able to take minimum damage. It's going to target the lead Ranger regardless. So prior to this card going, have the lead Ranger play as many cards as possible. So this way, if they only have 2 cards in their hand and they discard them, possibly that's only 2 damage because it's equal to the number of shields on the discarded cards. If they discard 2 cards and they're both a single shield, then that's very minimum damage to the other Rangers. What you have a problem with at that point is now that Ranger has no cards in order to participate in battle, and they're just kind of standing there as a cheerleader, go team, go type deal. So not the worst thing or whatever. It's still a 4. Do I really want to make that a, you know what? No, I'm going to make this a 3. I'm going to do this right here on camera right now as I think about it. I'm going to drop this down to a threat level of 3 because after thinking about it like that and knowing that you can manipulate the person that this is going to target, so long as this isn't like way in the beginning, if this is like maybe the 3rd or 4th card within the line, then you can easily manipulate your ability to take as minimum damage as possible when Dominate actually triggers. And then if that case happens, then you have another turn in order to do other stuff. So not so bad, not so great, but you just got to play this one smart. You got to play it smart. You got to be able to break through his mental domination. Here we go. This is the one you want to get rid of as fast as possible when you fight him. Threat level 5, Stolen Power. 7 health card, passive keyword. While this card is in play, when energy is spent or drained, place the energy token on this card. Each time Lord Drakkon deals damage, increase that damage by 1 for each energy token on this card. This is pretty much where that Cyclone Strike thing becomes worse and worse and worse and a higher threat because the more energy that's on stolen power, the stronger Drakkon cards are. And as you saw, he deals multiple points of damage with every one of his attacks, or the majority of his attacks. It's 3 damage twice, or those 3 attacks from Cyclone Strike. Each one of those would increase by 1 for every energy on this. You want to make sure he doesn't drain your energy, but then also if you're playing cards that are worth 1, 2, 3 energy apiece, all that goes on this card, thus powering him up even further. Just, you got to be very smart in terms of what you play and hope that when you get those rolls, you get them high enough in order to be able to defeat those cards. So this way he doesn't do like crazy amount. I mean, can you imagine doing a power weapon, putting 3 on this, and then you have to deal with a Cyclone Slash that's 7 damage, 6 damage, 5 damage. No. Stolen power needs to go out as soon as possible, because if it's on the field, Drakkon will wreck you. Those were the 3 from the Shattered Grid storyline. Now we're going to move on over to Necessary Evil. Again, with Shattered Grid, there are the Mastodon Troopers and the Ranger Sentries as foot soldiers. I will be covering them in a future video. For now, we're just going to stick with the monsters and bosses and nemesis figures from these particular storylines. So, off to Necessary Evil. Dayne, an evil Syrian bounty hunter hired by Lord Zed to eliminate the Rangers. Being an old friend of Zed's, and the fact that Zed busted him out of jail and pays well, Dayne couldn't resist the offer. Squaring off against the Rangers was perfect for Dayne, as he couldn't resist the challenge, and this was definitely no small job. In addition to his strength and speed, Dayne is arguably the universe's greatest multitasker, able to perform multiple jobs at one time without missing a beat on any of them. Dayne, being a Nemesis-style character, does have a specific ability tied to him. Each time an enemy card with the passive keyword resolves, deal 3 damage to the attached Ranger, then attach this card to any other Ranger in this battle. He is classified as a Nemesis character within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, but like monsters, all you need to do is defeat 4 of his 8 cards in order to defeat him. Easier said than done for this character. Within his deck, there are 5 cards with 4 health values on them, and 3 cards with 5 health values. Breaking down his keywords, he has no blank cards, 2 fast, no guard, no single passive cards, but 6 out of his 8 cards are combo keywords, 3 of them being guard passive, and 3 of them being fast passive. Dayne has the Plasma Whip, 4 health card. This is a guard passive right here. There are 2 of these within his deck. While this card is in play, each time the ability of Dayne's deployment card resolves, increase that damage by 1. Now again, there's 2 of these in there, and remember, his thing is, once this resolves and finishes up, he does 3 damage to whatever Ranger he's attached to, because Nemesis cards attach to particular Rangers, and then he moves to another Ranger that's within the battle. If both of these cards are on the field, instead of 3 damage, he's doing 5 damage to that Ranger and then moving on. Really, that's his big shtick. That's his big, gimmick for it all, where he'll snap onto a Ranger, and as soon as a passive happens, he'll do damage and run away. Do damage and run away. Being very sneaky, being very sly, like a bounty hunter generally would be. I'm going to make this a level 3 threat level. It's guarded, so you can get into it pretty quickly in order to defeat it. 4 health, not so bad. You can kind of work around with what you have, your battles, your attack cards and ever, in order to get rid of this pretty quickly. The problem is our other cards within Dayne's deck that will prevent you from attacking this right away, because they're going to be limiting what you can play, where you can play them, and things along that ways. But if you do have the ability to take this down, take it down, you know, I would say as early as you can, because he's going to be jumping around a lot to your Rangers, dealing a lot of damage that, you know, could be reduced just by getting rid of this card. Now we have Blinding Shot. There are 2 of these within his deck. 4 health, fast, passive keyword. So this is a fast card, but it also has the passive. So again, once it resolves, he triggers. I hate this card. I hate this card with a passion. While this card is in play, each time a Ranger rolls a double miss result during an attack, change it to a miss. I would be happier if this was the first time they roll a double hit, or one result showing a double hit, anything along that ways would make this card a little bit easier. Otherwise, that is definitely a level 4 card that you need to get rid of as fast as possible. I only give it a level 4 instead of a level 5 because there's worse cards in here that you have to deal with. And also, rolling double hits is really like very hard to do within this game. Whenever that happens, it's like, yay. But of course, with this down, you're going to be rolling more double hits than you ever would in your entire life, which would then just turn to misses anyway. So try to do what you can in order to ping this thing down as fast as possible, get rid of it. So this way your dice can do as much damage as they possibly can, and you don't have to worry about Dayne reducing it to 0. I know I said Dayne, I meant Dayne. It's just gonna be in my brain. I'm gonna say Dayne because I said it so many times during that game that it's embedded in there. I'm trying to reset it, but what can you do? Anyway, Isolate Prey. There's one of these located within his deck. 4 health, fast, passive card. While this card is in play, Dayne's current nemesis is the only ranger who can play combat cards. When this card resolves, deal 3 damage to each ranger. Problem is it's fast. Because it's fast, it's going to go right to the front of the line. And if this is one of the last cards you play, it's going to go there, and that's going to be terrible. I would prefer this to be a little bit further down the line. Also not around a guard, because this is a threat level of 5. This is a card that could really screw you over because you have to be very picky choosy about where Dayne, there I go, did it again, wherever Dayne goes from the rangers within the battle. Because again, like it says, only the ranger that Dayne is attached to is going to be able to play cards. And you don't want to have to deal with that, especially if you want to be able to combo off of somebody. If you want to throw something down and then another ranger wants to put something down, that you can't do that with Isolate Prey because it's only that one ranger is allowed to play cards. And if you have a bad draw in your hand where you don't have many attack cards and things along that ways, you got to figure out where Dayne moves within the row in order to gain the most out of whatever character plays a card next. This also deals damage and moves him and deals damage again. Overall, this is an awful, awful card. And if you find a way to get rid of it as fast as possible so you don't have to deal with it not only in the remainder of that battle, but a future battle, take that chance and do it. You need to do it. Up next, we have Bounty Breaker, a 5 health fast keyword card. There are 2 of these within his deck. Deal 5 damage, attach Dayne's deployment card to the ranger who suffers this damage. Now, this is a threat level of 3. This is something that if you happen to have the right situation in front of you and everything, you can get rid of this card if you want to. The good thing about this card is it does not have a passive. I believe these 2 cards are the only 2 cards within his deck that do not actually trigger a passive, which is great because even though this does 5 damage and you don't really want to have to deal with that 5 damage, you don't have to worry about him popping off on somebody and then moving around. And then also once this triggers, you can shift him around should you have Isolate Prey out and then work out from there. Be like, okay, so if you move here, you can do this and you can do that. And then like use this card to your advantage to plan out your next attack to do the most damage you can and get rid of those awful, awful cards. Not a bad card. Pretty decent. And again, because it doesn't have the passive on it, I like it because it doesn't actually trigger anything that Dayne does with his Nemesis ability. Here we go. Just as planned. There's only one of these in his deck. This is a threat level 5. This is something you need to get rid of as soon as possible. It's guard. You could do it. Get rid of it. I hate this card. 5 health, which isn't that bad. You can do that. Guard, passive. While this card is in play, Rangers cannot place hit token on Dayne's cards that have not yet resolved. You have to wait for a card to actually trigger and do whatever it is that it needs to do before you can start putting tokens on it. This is the worst to have all the way at the end of the monster board or whatever, because you can't start hitting any of Dayne's cards until they have done their thing. And some of them are fast, so they'll go first. But that means that first card that just triggered is your only possible target for Dayne. You can go after foot soldiers. You can bounce those around and everything like that in order to maybe get some extra damage on certain things or whatever. But no, I'm sorry, you can't even do that. I take that back. You can't even place hit tokens on other cards like that, because that's what this does. Rangers cannot place hit tokens on Dayne's cards if they have not resolved. It's not a fast card, so there's a good chance that it's just going to get pushed down. But the other good thing is it is a guard card. So once it triggers, and Dayne does its all passive stuff or whatever, you can then start concentrating firepower on this card and get rid of it. So this way you can spread out your damage more and hopefully take this dog to the pound and get rid of him. Because, man, he's a tough one. He is a really, really hard guy to fight. Kiya, an alien adventurer from the planet Kahuja, and was the Blue Omega Ranger alongside Jason, Zack, and Trini. Kiya wasn't always evil. On the night she became one of the empowered, individuals supercharged by the morphing grid, she couldn't control her new powers and vaporized her family. This left both physical and emotional scars on her that grew over time until she became so paranoid and delusional to think that the real evil in the universe stemmed from the Power Rangers. She believed only those empowered were the chosen ones, and it was up to her to bring peace to the universe. Kiya is classified as a boss within Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, meaning that you need to defeat 6 out of her 8 cards in order to gain the victory. Within her deck, you'll find 2 4 health cards, 4 5 health cards, a 6 health, and a 7 health card. As far as her keywords breakdown go, 3 of her cards have the fast keyword on them, 2 of them have passive, and 4 are combos, with 2 of them being guard passive, and the other 2 being fast guard cards. First, we're going to look at Anointed Strike. 2 of these appear in her deck. This is a threat level of 3 that I am giving this. 4 health, fast guard keyword card. So this has 2 different keywords on it. And then, of course, being that it's fast, it's going to go really, really quickly in the line and then protect other cards around it. Drain 1 energy, don't like that. Roll 4 dice and deal that much damage each to half of the Rangers in this battle rounded up. So, as with always when it comes to rolling dice and everything, a lot of it is, just like when you roll to attack, all about the RNG. Now, of course, whenever you're rolling it for the bad guys, it's going to be the worst possible result you can, feasibly get and whatnot. But there is a chance that when you do roll the dice, you may not be able to, or it may not give you a huge damage output, so you can get away pretty minimally, taken down or, losing cards and whatnot. But there are other cards within Kiya's deck that you have to watch out for, but it's that Drain 1 energy that really gets to me because I hate losing energy. That just really puts a damper on things. Poor Kiya and her deep scars. And now, is it Kiya or Kaya? I'm pretty sure it's Kiya. I look at that, I say Kiya. I'm sure a lot of people look at it, say the same way. I'm terrible at pronouncing names if I don't have anything in front of me or I don't hear anybody pronounce it. So I'm just going to go with Kiya and say that's what it is. This is also her slowly but surely mentally breaking down. 5 health, passive keyword card. There are 2 of these within her deck. While this card is in play at the end of each Ranger's turn, roll a number of dice equal to twice the number of defeated Kiya cards in this battle and deal that much damage to each Ranger. That's a lot going on there, surprisingly enough. When you're playing this game and you have a lot of things going on, different passives being triggered, different characters doing things in turn, planning your next moves and whatnot, and then also like when I'm sitting here recording for you guys, figuring out my monitors and my volumes and things along that ways, this is something that I know for a fact that I have skipped before just because I'd never thought about it. You got to roll the dice and deal damage at the end of each Ranger's turn. I got to remember at the end of each Ranger turn to do that. There's a good chance that I would forget about it several times. So it's an awful card. It is an awful, awful card. It is a level 4 card. Definitely one that you want to get rid of because just the sheer fact that this is going to cause deep scars within you trying to remember to do it while you're playing the game, even if you're just playing for the heck of it. So get rid of it, get it out of here, and stop those scars and those deep emotional traumas from growing and spreading and ultimately bursting out of her. Otherwise, that she is just going to continue to knock you down and drain you little by little. Next, we have Necessary Evil, the title of the series, if I'm not mistaken on that. I'm like 99.9% sure that's exactly what it is. I've mentioned it several times through this video. That's the name of the story arc that introduced the Omega Rangers, that introduced all of those problems, what they are, what they do, and then watching Kiya basically break down into this crazy, crazy sociopath looking to destroy all of the Rangers. Necessary Evil right here. There are 2 of these within her deck. 5 health, fast keyword. Reveal 1 random card from the deck of each defeated monster That does include Nemesis. Nemesis cards, for the sake of it, are considered monsters. So you would have to draw one of those. Deal an amount of damage to each ranger equal to the highest health value among those cards. You can kind of cheese this in a way if you don't defeat the monsters before going up against Kiya. Now, that's very, very risky. You don't want to do that at all because you run the risk of completely panicking your board and losing that way. But there's some really weird and odd ways around this in order to reduce that damage to next to nothing. So I'm going to give this a threat level of 2. I know that there's 2 of these in there. I know there's a possibility that these can pop up again. It's fast. It moves to the front and shifts everything down, which could be really problematic in the end. But I don't know. Something about this just doesn't scream to me very dangerous. And if you work yourself into a particular lineup before fighting her of monsters, you may not have too much to worry about when she summons these things back to the field in order to try to defeat the Rangers. Next, we have her Omega Trident, her power weapon of sorts, of course, made to be evil in this situation. One of these in her deck, which is fine by me because this is a 6 health fast keyword card. Drain 3 energy. Oh gosh. Roll 6 dice and deal that much damage to the lead ranger. I'm going to give it a threat level of 4 only because I can't give it a 5 because as soon as it goes down on a field, there's a very good chance that this thing will trigger first. If this is one of the last cards you play, it's going to go right to the front and trigger. There's nothing you can do about it. It's going to go in there and wreck your entire game by draining all of that well-earned energy that you have in order to defeat her stuff, and then 6 damage to the lead ranger. That could really, really put a hurt right in the beginning of a game. Now, again, there's only one of these in her deck, so it's a good chance that you may play it earlier and then it just gets moved down from other fast cards. If that's the case, try to get rid of this as fast as possible in order to avoid the drain. That's like the big thing right there, is avoiding the drain. And then, of course, 6 less damage to the lead ranger. You want to make sure that they stay in the fight as long as they can. But you can also kind of prepare it a little bit because you know exactly who is being targeted by this attack. It's that drain, man. It's that drain that I hate the most. So that's the reason I want to make this a higher priority than some other things, so I don't lose my valuable energy or my cards in my hand. And lastly, we have Grim Conviction, a 7 health guard passive keyworded card. While this card is in play, each time Kiya rolls a miss result, one ranger must discard the top card of their deck. So this goes into play with wanting to roll terrible when you have her doing these rolls that determine how much damage go against your rangers and whatnot, because you're either rolling really well and doing a massive amount of damage to your rangers, or you're rolling poorly and now you're removing the top card of your deck. Threat level 5 right here, definitely something you want to get rid of as fast as possible, so this way you can take advantage of those misses as just no damage to your rangers, which is great, and you're not milling through your deck as fast as you can because of this special ability. Now, what's great is it has the guard keyword, so no matter where it is on the lineup, you're going to be able to take care of it. The problem is it's 7 health. That could take several rounds in order to pick through, even though you don't have to worry about it being guarded by anything else. Kiya, girl, you're a tough one. You're one of the hardest bosses I've seen so far, and I really, really wish you were playable in the game so I could have a full Omega Ranger team. And there you have it, villains from across the Boom Studios comic book series of Shattered Grid and Necessary Evil. Again, you can find these in the Shattered Grid big box set and in the Rangers United big box set. But here you go, this is them. I was very happy to be able to do some research and learn a little bit more about all these characters, what their roles are within Power Ranger lore, and of course, basically why they do what they do and why they're such a threat to all of the Rangers. I would love to know more about them and everything. So any of you out there that know about these characters, I would love to hear any of your thoughts and opinions on them. Do you like them? Do you think they're cool? Do you wish that you could see them in TV shows going forward? And then of course, what do you think of them as bosses, monsters, nemesis figures, whatever it is in Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid? Have you gone up against any of these? What were some of your biggest wins? What were some of your biggest losses? I'd love to hear all of that down in the comment section below. But of course, let me know mostly about what you think of them all as a whole and any strategies that you happen to have to take them down. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this villain breakdown. Again, I'm going to be tweaking this series a little bit as time goes on. Let me know what you think about it so far. Do you agree with my ratings that I've given all of the cards that you've seen right here? And if not, what would be your rating and why? I hope you guys really enjoy this and are looking forward to my next full session of the game, which is going to feature the Omega Rangers. And I think I'm going to be taking some of these characters as well in order to play against. I'm pretty sure I fought against Kiya at some point in one of my previous videos, but I gotta look up that. I did Dayne not too long ago. I don't remember if I ever did these three. So maybe the Omegas are gonna go up against Ranger Slayer, Black Dragon, and Drakkon. Not really quite sure yet, but no matter what, the Omega Rangers that I have is a team of 3. It's screaming for an awesome solo session, so that is what I will be bringing you guys next. Which means in order not to miss that or any other future Power Ranger Heroes of the Grid video action that I happen to put out, or any other fun video for you to enjoy actually, be sure you are subscribed to the Home Gamer Dad, hit that notification button so you don't miss anything that I happen to put out, and of course, always come back, check out, see what happens, and see what's new, and let me know everything about your particular games at home as well. If you wish to support the channel even further, a super thanks is always welcome and appreciated. You can find that down in the description below. You can also use any of the links down in the description below in order to purchase the Shattered Grid, the Rangers United, or any of the other stuff that Renegade has out there. Trust me, using those affiliate links goes a long way to helping the channel. Very much appreciated for that, 100%. But regardless of anything, your view, your like, your comment, your share, all of that stuff goes to making Home Gamer Dad a stronger and stronger channel every day, where I can bring you more of these breakdowns, where I can bring you more of these sessions, where we can just have a great time talking about Power Rangers, because man, I love this series so much, and I can't wait to see what they do next. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much again. Take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together, learning about our villains, learning about their weaknesses, and learning what we can do as a team in order to stop them from causing evil and mayhem and destruction all over the galaxy. You guys have a good one, and I will see you next time.